All right, so Curtis, you're from Texas. You're a lifelong Cowboys fan. You're a lifelong Mavericks fan, maybe not as much, but a student of the Mavericks. They've been in your life. It's been a rocky road. There's been a lot of ups and downs. Everything peaked in 2011 with Dirk Nowitzki and probably winning the title, beating Wade and LeBron and Bosh. And it got weird over the course of the decade. They miraculously end up with Luka Doncic. Cuban sells the team last year. They just seem like if you're picking 6 franchises you want to be for the next 10 years, they would have been one of the 6 because they had Luka. Out of nowhere, they trade him in the most shocking, craziest trade in the history of the NBA. And just when you think, all right, maybe this will settle down, it just hasn't. It just keeps going up a level and up a level and up a level. What just your big picture watching this from afar, holy shit, what is your take?
I feel like quoting that notorious Darren Revolt tweet, this is terrible for Dallas, but this is tremendous content because you recognize the pain. And I have never seen Dallas people this emotionally gutted.
Right, so even like Cowboys Super Bowl losses, nothing?
Well, it's okay. So maybe not gutted, but just angry. Like there have been a lot of angry Jerry moments over the last 30 years. I was in middle school when they fired Tom Landry. I was in high school when Jimmy Johnson got axed by Jerry. I remember those were just crazy citywide moments of like, what the hell just happened? But I've never seen the anger like I've seen over the last week and change. Just pissed off. I mean, like visiting even with Dallas sports radio guys. And by the way, last Monday, one of the all-time sports radio days in Dallas history and probably American history when they were coming back and doing their shows.
Oh, and the morning and through the afternoon, first time.
You were getting your first time to talk about it. Yeah. And I was like, even going up to them, wow, what a day, huh? And they just look like gutted. I mean, because everything changes. This guy you loved, this person you were close to, the fact that it was done by Nico Harrison and Patrick Dumont, we'll probably get into here in a second.
Yeah.
And the way it was done and for what they got. I mean, every piece of it is just absolutely infuriating and gutting.
Well, and then this next level would happen at the home game yesterday where people are getting booed and they're removing fans, which removing fans for not doing anything that bad. They're just like being fans. I've never seen people get pulled out of the arena for the stuff that they got pulled out of last night. Have you?
Yeah. Did you see the one guy, right? So they're doing Mavs karaoke. Yeah. And they come in real close, like a close up on him. And he says, fire Nico. And then the camera goes, whoop.
Right. And then it was almost like he flashed, like he pulled it out of a zipper.
Absolutely.
And then they were just dumping fans, that's the worst thing you could do. Like it's not only did they do this crazy trade, but they don't seem to understand like how angry it's made people. And they don't really seem that interested in quelling the anger. It's like they're just taking gasoline and pouring it on the fire.
You get escorted out of the arena for saying fire Nico, for saying fire the GM. Are they going to escort the sports writers out of press row who wrote the same thing? I mean, why is that not a valid opinion?
Well, the other weird thing, and this kind of speaks to the incompetence behind the trade. How did they not anticipate any of this? Like they're in Dallas. Like Nico Harrison has been involved with the Mavericks longer than the owner. But he's there. He sees how popular Luka is. You go to any Mavericks game, it's Luka jerseys everywhere. I mean, I would say it's a top 4 fans wearing the jersey of the best player NBA city. It's just everywhere. And little kids everywhere, 77, just everywhere. There was a couple when I was going to the finals, there was a couple Dirks, a couple old school Mav stuff, but for the most part, it's just Luka. It's like a fucking Luka army. This was their guy. They've had him since he was 18. They thought they were going to have him until he was 40. So to not anticipate that part of it is like, man, I really think this makes us slightly better. But my life is going to suck for the rest of the time I live here. Just that alone. And then you have Pelinka on the other end going, yeah, we got to keep this quiet. Nobody can find out. Because he knows the moment it leaks out, the Mavs fans are going to basically riot. I've never seen anything like this from a hubris / lack of awareness. Dating back, unless you go back to like the 80s when the league was, everyone was on cocaine and the league was fucking crazy and the teams were worth $12 million and weird shit happened. This is like out of the 80s.
Yeah. And how about Jason Kidd, no post-game presser last night? Wasn't that great?
That which everyone was saying this has like never happened before with any Mavs team. We've never seen a coach just skip the presser. We're taping this it's 10 o'clock PT. We might find out today Davis is out for like 2 months.
Yeah, I mean that was also kind of a news dump during the Super Bowl too. Oh wait, AD is actually hurt. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, you say like he didn't anticipate it, but I feel like he did to some extent because I feel like the secrecy was driven by Pelinka, as you say. So there were no other offers, no other suitors. But I think Harrison kept it quiet too because he didn't want to face the backlash. He knew it would get crushed. So in the way, like you were kind of anticipating it, but maybe not anticipating how big it would be.
Right. Well, the Patrick Dumont piece of this.
Oh my God.
As it's evolved. I wrote down the funniest outcomes of the Luka trade so far.
Here we go.
And it's a long list. Everyone made this point, but a trade so bad, people thought Shams got hacked. Let's just start there. That's never happened before in the history of professional sports, where we assumed the best reporter of a sport got hacked. Pelinka dressing like a Fast and Furious villain for the post-trade conference, I loved. Just like decked out, like he was about to do a concert in New Zealand with it, like he used to be on New Kids on the Block, and now he's got a solo career. I love this one. Everyone's still pretending that Jason Kidd, JJ Redick, LeBron, Rich Paul, and Anthony Davis didn't know about the trade. This is my favorite. They're still doing it. It's like, this is like Playhouse Theater. If people think Jason Kidd didn't know about this trade, I got like a bridge to sell you. It's unbelievable that they're still pushing this. AD, we talked about this the day after on this pod, the day after the trade, like AD waived his trade kicker and gave up $5.9 million in like 40 minutes to make the trade work. There's no way he didn't know. It's impossible. He has this huge house out here in LA. He loved being on the Lakers. He had to have known. All these people knew, and they're still doing it all these days later. Well, it was so important. We had to just keep it between the owners and Nico and Rob, and that was all. It couldn't get out. Why couldn't it get out? Why? Because you knew the Mavericks fans were going to fucking riot if it got out because it was so fucking stupid. That's why I couldn't get out.
Totally. They tried to square the circle at that Nico press conference, which was also one of the great moments in this whole thing, where he said, J Kidd didn't know, but we were aligned on the vision.
Right. Well, but then they said he didn't know to the 11th hour. It's like, you mean the 11th hour of a 24-hour day? Because there's no fucking way you traded Luka without telling Jason Kidd and talking him through it. Like, first of all, that's insane. If you're running a basketball team and you're not going to walk through all the mechanics of here's door A and here's door B. And also, like, they were complaining about Luka behind the scenes for like 2 years. There's no way Jason Kidd wasn't a huge part of this trade. And by the way, Jason Kidd, not exactly the most stand-up dude over the years. Like, this is the guy who stabbed Brooklyn in the back so he could get the Milwaukee job. Like, he's let the trail of bodies everywhere. And like the Nets in 2007, all of a sudden he got out of there. Like, this is not like Mr. Loyal, awesome team employee guy. So I just, give me a break on that. And then LeBron, like the way he reacted to the trade after, like if they really blindsided on this, there's no way that he reacts the way he did, which was like, oh yeah, we'll wait and see. I just think everybody knew this was better. This was a better situation for LeBron. It actually gave him a chance to win a title. It was better for AD to go to Dallas. Anyway, that was one of my favorites. We mentioned Nico saying they kept the trade talks quiet because neither side wanted it to leak. You mean you didn't want it to leak because the moment it got out, there's no way the fan base would have let you do it. Patrick Dumont's interview over the weekend,
incredible,
when he said Kobe was a culture builder.
Mm-hmm. And
even though
Shaq,
Kobe's coach in 2005, wrote an entire book about how awful it was to coach Kobe. And
and Shaq was the guy who was always in shape.
Shaq's work ethic, which was like the most famous thing about Shaq. In my book of basketball, the whole thing I wrote about Shaq was that Shaq could have graduated with a 4.0 and instead he graduated with a 3.7 and had a great time. Like, that was Shaq. Mark Cuban, a week late, doing the whole, I tried to stop it as soon as I found out, but it was too late because he probably was walking around for a week with everybody just crushing him on the trade. And finally he had to like get some piece out to Mark Stein. Like, hey, can you put out that I had nothing to do with this? Like, there's really no blood on my hands. the Mavs trading Luka because he couldn't stay in shape and was always an injury risk, but then they got Anthony Davis, who got hurt in the first game. Like, you can't make this up.
Somebody whose nickname is Street Clothes.
Right. It's like, this guy's better. Who knows, that Dave McBenamin story yesterday when it was like, LeBron's camp has noticed that Luka got what he wanted right away.
That was an amazing sentence.
And LeBron has been pushing for this stuff for years. First of all, LeBron's played with, just in the last 14 years, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Love, Anthony Davis, and Luka Doncic. He plays on a Lakers team. When they traded for AD, they traded top two lottery picks, Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball. They pushed Julius Randle out, who was another lottery pick. They traded the number 4 pick that became DeAndre Hunter. They put Josh Hart in the trade. They put Mo Wagner in the trade. They traded like 2 more swaps and picks, including the one that became Dyson Daniels. And they have another pick this year. Like, they gave away like basically a decade of drafts combined with the 2 Westbrook trades. Then they like, how much can you do for this guy? So I almost don't believe that he couldn't have. There's no way he really feels like they're not doing enough for him. Anyway, that made me laugh. And then all the Mav stuff with just, hey, let's hold our heads high and thank Luka for 7 years. And he brought us to the Western Finals and the finals. And this was great, Maverick. Good luck in LA. No, they did the opposite. They just leak shit left and right. He's a fat piece of shit. Maybe he had a drinking problem. His calves could explode. Watch out for his Achilles. There's so many fucking things that are leaking out. It's disgusting.
It was. And you know me, I'm a student of the Now They Tell Us story. And just as soon as this trade came down, we were all on the clock, right? You guys even said it on the emergency podcast that night. We're all on the clock. Here we go. But it never really came out because there's really not a reason for this, right? There's not a great answer. There's always an answer with these things, with these weird stories. What happened? What are the motives here? And the answer is, it was Nico Harrison. Like, he didn't have a good reason. He just did it. Right. He did this stupid, incredibly stupid thing.
Well, and then Dumont, the owner or the guy who's running stuff, the more I talk to people and I keep looking for conspiracy theories or whatever, and it just seems like they just felt like they didn't like that he wasn't in shape and they thought he was kind of a dick. And that just seems like that's why. They didn't want to give him $350 million. This is the all-time new owner syndrome trade we've ever had. We've had so many great ones over the years where somebody takes over a team and within a couple months they're like, here's my idea. And it's usually a disaster. This is the worst one ever.
Yes, but usually you're paying too much for another star, right? That's the new owner syndrome. That's the Nets. That's the Suns, right? You're going out like, let's go get an aging star and spend way too much capital to go get that guy. This is the opposite.
It's the opposite, but the spirit is always the same. It's always somebody moving into the league who's either had some success somewhere else or inherited the success he had. And they go in and within a year, they think they're smarter than everybody else. And that's always the North Star, where they come in and they're like, they're just trying to do a zag, right? They're not like, I just want to come in. I want to learn this business for 3 or 4 years, trust the people that are in here. I want to be a student of the game. There's a lot of stuff I don't know yet. It's always more like the Ishbia thing where it's like, nope, everybody's doing this, so I'm going to do this. Like Prokhorov was another classic in Brooklyn, right? He's just like, picks, what are those? Spend those. And then a year later, he's like, yeah, cut costs. That was stupid. And then he just demolishes the Nets for, a decade. But they all have to do it. Even Ballmer, who I think was one of the better new owners, but he took over and, within a couple years, they had traded Blake Griffin. Chris Paul was out. And that was probably one of the more successful ones, but they all have to do it.
You know what really pisses me off about this is, and this is comes from a more personal place, is that you and I, before we worked together, both worked with people in our lives who would make our lives hell. And it wasn't that we had I care about journalism, you care about journalism intensely, and we're just butting heads over the particular vision. We would look at them and be like, you actually don't care that much. Yeah. You just like having a job. Right. And when you don't have this job anymore, you're going to go off and do another job. And you're never going to think about this again. And I'm going to think about this for the rest of my life, this moment. Yeah. Because I'm so pissed off. That's Maverick fans to me. Nico Harrison's going to do a couple more years of GM, and then he's going to never do this job again. And he won't think about this as, oh, that was a great failure in my life. He's like, oh, that was weird. You know, a couple of weird years in my career. Now I'm going to go work with my buddy Rob again. And, you know, it just doesn't matter. And Patrick Dumont.
It'll move. He'll be out of Texas.
Patrick Dumont will never think about this again. And I just guarantee it. And that is what's just particularly galling about this whole deal to me.
Well, and also that Patrick Dumont clearly was not a huge basketball fan, probably until the last 6 or 7 years, based on that one interview he gave. There's wrinkles to this that I think tie into where basketball is kind of moving anyway. And I've noticed it with my friends' kids, especially kids, maybe my son's age and under, where they root for the player over the team. I think video games have something to do with this. I think all the player movement has stuff to do with this. I also just think basketball's different. Guys jump around now, so it's easier to just grab a player than a team. But it's definitely one of the player empowerment LeBron generation. This is one of the side effects. Is like, I like Russell Westbrook. Now he's on the Nuggets, so now I'm a Nuggets fan. This Luka thing is the most interesting test case for this, because I know of a few people who either it's them specifically, their kids, or people they know who are like, my kid's a Laker fan now. Like, this is it. Like, we've actually given up on the Mavericks. He's just going to follow Luka to the Lakers. He's going to root for the Lakers from now on. I don't remember a bigger version of this in any sport. Like, when Brady went to the Bucks, the Pats fans, we rooted for him. Like, I rooted for him during the Super Bowl, but I was never like, I'm now a Bucks fan. Like, we stayed the Pats fan. This is actually like, it feels like they've lost fans over this, which I don't remember happening.
It's really fascinating because I'm like you. I have my teams that I've had since childhood and it never changed. I never acquired like a second NBA team or a second, like that's bullshit. Get out of here with that. This is the one time I wouldn't blame anybody for doing it. I mean, Dirk sitting there blessing the whole thing last night with, you know, and Luka doing the Dirk trademark shot. Dirk, by the way, greatest player in Mavs history, who after he won a title did a diners, drive-ins, and dives tour. I mean, staying in shape. Remember that?
Yeah.
I mean, so I wouldn't blame anybody if you're just a Luka fan. And now, even with all the changes you talk about, with what the Mavericks did, why not? Why wouldn't you just keep rooting for him no matter where he's playing?
The other thing I was thinking about, just from a historical standpoint with this trade, which speaks to the fact that they had a sports business executive who doesn't seem like he was a true basketball fan, Nico. Maybe he is, but it's just like his lack of understanding of the history of this stuff was really notable. And then Dumont, who clearly isn't a basketball fan. But there's been so many great players who hit kind of this weird inflection point that Luka seemed to be in, right? Where he's 25. He wasn't at his all-time peak yet. You could talk yourself into, maybe this is never going to happen. And ironically, the Mavericks had one of those guys in Dirk Nowitzki. When they made the finals with them in 2006, the MVP season in 2007, and then they lose to the Warriors in round one. And then around 2008, it really seemed to go sideways, and he had some issues. He got involved with a woman. That became a thing where he had this bad relationship. In 2008, 2009, you really felt like Dirk was gettable and that the ship had sailed on him being an awesome player. And they didn't trade with him. Cuban was like, I'm never trading this guy. Cuban had a chance to trade him in 2004 for Shaq. That was when Shaq became available. It was like the obvious trade was Dirk for Shaq. He's like, I'm not trading Dirk. Dirk's our guy. And they just kept him. But there's been other guys over the years when teams have blinked, when they've had, they were like, should we trade him? Especially when you go back to the 70s and 80s. This is the first time in a while a team blinked.
Yeah.
Even Minnesota with KG, like they never traded him. The Wizards did it with C-Web, but C-Web like never had any real success. Luka had real success. He made the finals last year, did the Western Finals. Like he was actually winning shit. So this is why I think one of the many reasons. I was even going back, I was reading Houston and Hakeem Olajuwon, because in 92 and 93, and you can read, there's a ton of stuff about this. Like, he almost got traded to the Clippers. He was being shopped around. There was a Reggie Lewis possible trade at one point. But they never traded him. They kept him. So this happened before, but this is the rare time where the team just blinked.
And it's so early to blink. It's so early. I mean, 29-year-old Luka maybe you never get back to the finals. You got to the Western Conference Finals one more time.
Right.
And
then you trade him for 7 first-round picks and some 22-year-old. That's the only way it makes sense.
Yeah, and he has like 2 seasons in there where he plays like 45 games, and then you're starting, long-term conditioning, whatever. But this is way too early to even entertain that idea.
The other piece of this trade, which I'm happy to go on the record, and people can clip this out and shove it in my face for the rest of my life. I'm far more.
Aggregate this, everybody.
Aggregate this right now. I really think this is the greatest thing they ever could have done for him.
For Luka.
Professionally, career-wise.
Oh, yeah.
Motivation-wise. This is the all-time we did you a favor by doing this trade. Like, I already thought he was going to win a title someday. To me, he was the natural pick of anyone under 27 for who was going to win. All of the checkpoints that he's hit as a player. But the one thing that was kind of missing was like, guy's carrying too much weight. Like if you go back and you watch him rookie year, second year, he's just way skinnier and he's more explosive, right? He added all this weight because it made him harder to deal with. It made him more physical. It added a post-up game. But, now I wonder what, between that, some of the stuff we're already reading about LeBron and him kind of Luka in awe watching LeBron's workout. I mean, LeBron's like one of the most legendary workout guys ever. And Luka kind of maybe finally understanding this is maybe what it takes. Usually this happens when somebody's on the U.S. Olympic team. But Luka's Slovenian. Like he never was in that wing where it's like, and you always have these stories like that. It's 92 had it, 2008 had it, where they're watching the best player and they're like, holy shit, that guy's getting up at 5:30 in the morning to work out. Maybe I should start doing that. And so anyway, I just feel like that's the frustrating thing for me as a Laker hater, that this is just clearly the greatest thing. Plus, everyone comes to California and loses 20 pounds. Is the other thing. So he's that's just naturally going to happen anyway.
Bill. No, I agree. And sometimes in psychology with players, it's like deceptively simple. We're talking about Mahomes. What he's going to think about all year.
Yeah.
And every time there's a clip on ESPN, look at that. Look at that. Brady, fed off that his entire career. So just imagine Luka. Read all those stories about being overweight. Team didn't believe in me.
They thought his Achilles was going to explode.
That was
my new favorite one in the last week. His Achilles. It's ticking time bomb. Oh, okay, cool. Can you just, last thing, can you walk us through how this plays out in Dallas with your lifelong knowledge, appreciation, historical sense of things in Dallas? A trade that was being compared to the JFK assassination for its impact on the city. How does it play out from an animosity, anger? Just what do the next 4 months look like?
So here's what I would say. The Mavericks were created as a franchise in my lifetime. Like they were literally.
Right, 1981.
Yeah. So, or
1980, sorry.
To watch them, you had, other than that time they pushed the Lakers to 7 games in the Western Conference Finals. Until the Dirk era, they were just barely a franchise. Barely a franchise, barely rated on the Dallas sports consciousness, way behind the Rangers, for second place, by the way.
It felt like in the 90s, they were like they were one of the NBA train wreck franchises.
Absolutely. It was one of those,
one of the 3 worst.
People still said Clippers, but it was actually the Mavericks, except the Mavericks would just lose the draft lottery every year. Remember that they gave that 76ers all-time wins record a ride a couple times. I mean, it was just unbelievably bad. And
I remember when they traded Jason Kidd too, it totally made sense because it was like, of course they did. They're fucking stupid. Of course they're going to trade him after 2 years.
Oh my God. Was that Sam Cassell and
whatever.
And
it's like, we're not sure these 3 guys can mesh together. So we're going to trade the best one of the 3. It was like, you guys are idiots.
Totally. And Cuban and Dirk made the Mavericks into a real franchise.
Yeah.
And then there was another period of, kind of weirdness there at the end where they kind of went, they were declining with Dirk. And then Luka made them. Again, like no matter what you say, Luka's here. There's a thing to talk about. There's a thing to pay attention to. There's a reason to buy a ticket to a Mavericks game and be excited and get into the Mavericks. And now I just wonder where they slide, on the sports consciousness. And even talking to those radio hosts, the same thing. It's like, what's the Mavericks segment we do? Like, what do we do? Do we do an AD segments every week? I don't think so. I wouldn't. If they're, let's say they get healthy and they're a playoff team this year. I mean, there'll be some interest, people being in, but I just think
It's gonna be hard
sliding.
to make the
You've
playoffs.
seen this happen with Boston teams before, where you just slide off the map for a while.
Happened with the Pats.
And in this case, it's not just because you're bad or potentially bad in a couple of years. It's because people are pissed at you. Like they're angry with you. They think you just screwed them over in a way they've never felt before. And I just think there's a lot of potential there for them just slide into the ocean for a while.
Well, I mean, imagine if Kyrie leaves. So he can opt out. There's some free agency stuff with him potentially.
Ooh.
Like this could be a house of cards pretty quickly. And then the Davis piece of it, if he's just not healthy this year, like they have a real chance not to make the playoffs because the West is so good. I was looking at the odds. Like I bet it when I was in Louisiana over the weekend. I bet on FanDuel. I bet on Golden State at like plus 155 to make the playoffs. They're plus 102. Tomorrow they might be plus 170. Like the West is like, depending on who wins 2 games in a row, there's 11 good teams plus San Antonio. There's 8 playoff spots. So if you have Davis out for a month, combined with, Kyrie pulls something for a week, now all of a sudden you're sliding out of it. So fascinating stuff. Who thought Dallas would be this crazy as a sports city without the Cowboys being involved? I think that might have been the biggest shocker of all of it.
Oh my God. And I tell you, the words Brian Schottenheimer have not been uttered once on Dallas sports radio.
or Jerry Jones possibly winning an Emmy for Landman.
There we go.
The most emotional TV cameo of the last 5 years. Who knew?
Best thing he's done in 30 years by far.
Unbelievable stuff. Oh, I almost forgot to do this. So I was saying to you last night when we were texting that this was the first NBA trade that I felt could be turned into a Ryan Murphy limited series on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Where, listen, not to compare this trade to the Menendez brothers and Ted Bundy and some of the other things they've done.
But why not?
But it feels like, you have characters, you have intrigue, you have the Dumonts coming in as like the rich family screwing stuff up. You have Cuban as the old guy hanging on. You have Luka and his like whoever his entourage is and whatever. They could Ryan Murphy that character up and make me like, no, Luka, it's 3 a.m. You can't have Popeyes. You have LeBron and Rich Paul and AD and the Lakers side and Jeannie Buss and Jay Moore. Maybe Jay Moore plays himself. Anyway, I asked you to just go nuts with this.
Yeah. So opening scene of our limited series, it's got to be this coffee shop meeting between Nico and Rob Pelinka.
On January 7th, immortalized by a photo from some random weirdo in Dallas.
And did you hear the guy taking the photo was a Lakers fan? So he recognizes Pelinka, but he doesn't recognize Nico.
Oh.
Which is a great detail. So he snaps a photo. We see Bill, camera, push in. He's texting a friend and he goes, I just found Rob Pelinka having coffee with some guy, which really sets
opening credits. Boom. Let's go.
Yeah. Theme song, hard cut.
Boom.
Here we go.
Ryan Murphy's Luka trade.
And the only drawback there is, do we want Pelinka to walk away from the coffee meeting and pick up the phone and call somebody and be like, you'll never believe this.
Right.
You'll never believe what I just heard. We got this going on. Mark Cuban flashback.
Yeah.
Yelling at the refs, buying the team, selling the team.
Oh, yeah.
Kobe flashback, so we can see Pelinka and Nico meeting, probably at Lakers games, right? Talking to each other.
So we're going back and forth like the Last Dance a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. This is a limited series, right? We got to have, not everything has flashbacks these days.
Right.
I was playing with some casting here too. You got to help me with this. I mean, I'm just so sorry we lost Penny Marshall because Miriam Adelson, I mean, that would have been the ultimate casting.
Maybe we can bring her back. CGI now is amazing. Maybe Penny Marshall's maybe it's not dead yet.
CGI Penny Marshall. Do we want Josh Gad for Patrick Dumont? I kind of like that a little bit.
Oh, that's really good. I mean, you could also go Chris Pratt putting the weight back on after losing the weight and getting muscular the last 12 years. Now he's going back trying to win an Emmy.
Who do we like for Cuban?
Cuban's like it feels like Jeremy Strong and a Zag. Nobody expecting Jeremy Strong here. He's got the Cuban wing on. He's super personable, and you're like, whoa, Jeremy Strong is Cuban? This is crazy. Why are they doing this?
He could be Pelinka too.
That's
because
better.
What if he's reading The Alchemist's Wife?
No, Rob Lowe has to be Pelinka. What are you talking about?
Okay, but they have to be quoting, from things and doing. Yeah, either one of those guys I could see actually.
Who else could be Cuban?
I had J.K.
Ben
Simmons.
Affleck? Could Ben Affleck be Cuban?
I had J.K. Simmons with a wig, and at first I was like,
great.
I was like, he's too old, but he's actually only 4 years older than Cuban.
That's great. I like that the most.
Their faces look different, but we can work on that.
So J.K. Simmons, Nico Harrison could be 40 people.
Does anybody
easy.
play Danny Ainge getting wind of this deal like with 30 minutes to go?
No, he plays himself.
Okay, Danny. We're going to cast Danny. Dirk was a tough one for me.
Dirk plays himself.
Okay, Luka.
Actually, you could also do the thing with Dirk where it's like a 6'4" actor with a bad Dirk wig and it's clearly not Dirk, because that's one of the staples of these shows where the guy doesn't actually follow sports.
Yeah, somebody has to be completely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's probably Dirk. Dirk's like 6'2".
What do we do with Luka?
Luka's tough. This is where you get into like the Aaron Hernandez show, which I liked. And the guy didn't really look like Aaron Hernandez, but by the end of the show, you kind of felt like he was Aaron Hernandez. So you almost need somebody that's big and a little doughy, and that could be anybody. Maybe you're going with an unknown for that one.
Yeah. Do we need like a De Niro style weight gain where we send him to Italy to eat pasta for like 3 months so they can be
too
Luka?
Expensive in the budget. You have to pretend Italy. You have to pretend it's like Palos Verde.
I like this. Is actually a good series.
Yeah, this is pretty good, and I think the Dumont, the Adelson Dumont family, I think features prominently in this.
Yeah,
just like you really make Dumont like a villain and just a goofball who's like frantically trying to read up on NBA history, like he's reading Halberstam breaks of the game. Somebody told me to read this. I don't know who any of these people are. Just confused.
Can we still get Bill Walton in a trade?
Who's playing Skin and who are the Mavs radio guys? What are those guys?
You're talking about Ben and Skin. Yeah.
Ben and Skin. Who's playing Ben and Skin?
Oh, my God.
Those are great roles.
I would have so many ideas for Mavericks sports radio. I mean, there'd be so many. This would be unbelievable.
Could people play me and Russillo and Mahoney doing the reaction pod, or are we playing ourselves?
Yeah, and Skip plays himself too. Don't forget that, because he would have some big takes on this.
Skip with like some de-aging, like the Irishman. Because we go back into the mid 2000s when he's saying that you can't win a title with Dirk Nowitzki, then it's like current Skip.
Unbelievable.
Stephen A. actor, or
Sure.
Stephen A. as himself?
He absolutely wants to play himself.
What about Donald Faison as Nico Harrison?
Ooh, interesting.
See, that'd be good. Yeah.
I like
All right,
that.
this is great. Ryan Murphy, get on it. Call us. We're ready to do this.